we have another report of Sony overtaking Canon in mirrorless sales. But is this part of a new trend? Are Canon customers saving up for the R5 Mark II? Or is this the beginning of the end for Canon? But before we get to the details, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything, helps this channel grow, and keeps you up to date on the latest camera coverage. While it's true that we have another source, BCN, telling us that Canon's lost the #1 spot to Sony, there are a few caveats. The #1 being that this is for Japan. It's not dealing with worldwide sales or shipped units. #2, it's just for June. And #3, it's just for mirrorless camera sales. So and one thing that's very interesting, if we take a look at a larger picture of this, what we see over the past 3 to 4 years when it comes to mirrorless camera sales, whether we're looking at a single month or a year, we see a bit of flip-flopping between Canon and Sony, so there's nothing new there. So if you're a Sony fan, don't get too excited at toppling Canon, at least just yet. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I've got some really incredible sales on Sony gear, cameras, lenses, and well over 30 different items on sale. So that's certainly some good news for Sony customers. I mean, that's better than market share, isn't it? Don't you want to get good deals on good gear? Now let's turn our attention to Canon customers. Now, if you're a Canon customer and you see a couple of trends, or I wouldn't say they're trends at this point. Let's take a look at this chart here, and we can clearly see that Canon has been the dominant player in the marketplace for some time. So Canon is still the dominant player. They still hold somewhere around 42% market share. And I really wouldn't worry. You're not going to have any problems getting new gear. Canon just announced 2 cameras, the R5 Mark II and the R1. They've released announced a bunch of new lenses this year. I wouldn't worry about Canon unless their market share drops below, let's say, 5%, where you're lumped into the basement with other camera companies such as Panasonic. And if that's the case, then you got to really worry about the company's future. But at this point, I really wouldn't worry at all if you're purchasing Sony, Canon, or Nikon gear. Neither of those companies is going away anytime soon, and you can expect to have new gear announced, have your old gear serviced, and to, well, get really good customer service. If you haven't heard about the Canon EOS R5 Mark II, I don't know where you've been hiding. It's been the talk of the town for the past year, and it's likely dented sales as potential customers waited to see what Canon would announce on July the 17th. And there's an awful lot of pent-up demand for the camera. And initial sales data from the pre-orders for the R5 Mark II show that it's greatly exceeded the sales data from the Mark I. And we haven't seen pre-sales data like this, well, since we started this channel back in 2019. And to give you an idea of the level of magnitude we're looking at in terms of the pre-orders, if we look at the Nikon Z6 Mark III, which was announced not too long ago, and we look at the total number of pre-orders that this channel has seen, we're looking at about a 10-to-1 ratio. So for every one Nikon Z6 Mark III that was pre-ordered, we had 10 Canon R5 Mark IIs. And even to put into context with the R1, we're seeing about a 10-to-1 ratio there as well. If we look at the Nikon Z8, we're looking at about a 9-to-1 ratio of Canon R5 to Nikon Z8s. And across the board, whether it's a Sony, whether it's a Pentax, Panasonic, the number of pre-orders for the Canon EOS R5 Mark I are absolutely through the roof. So what we can expect to see is essentially in August and September definitely a big boost to Canon's numbers, and those numbers will probably, I would expect we'd see a benefit to October, November, and even December, because I can't see Canon fulfilling all the pre-orders in August and September. But let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit and let's take a look at things from an annualized basis. They clearly paint a different picture. And while we can see that Canon's market share initially picked up in 2017, 2018, Canon has lost market share to Sony recently. But Canon does maintain a dominant position with 41.2% to Sony's 32.1%. And this is according to the Japanese survey company Techno Research Systems. And once again, it's important to point out that these numbers include both DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. If you're a Sony customer, you're just going to follow mirrorless because that's all Sony makes. So a lot of times when we come out with these market share numbers, we just go out there and grab mirrorless numbers. But it's very important to capture all ILC cameras, all interchange lens cameras. We want to capture DSLRs and mirrorless, and that will really give you a good idea as to how well Sony is doing in terms of their imaging segment against Canon, because believe it or not, that Canon still sells a significant amount of DSLRs, and when it comes to DSLR sales, they have something like a 75% market share. And again, this market share that we're talking about is related to the Japanese consumer market, which is a little bit different than what we see in Europe and North America. So do take these numbers with a grain of salt. The way I like to look at market share numbers is to get an idea of the overall health of the company, the ecosystem that you're in, whether it's Canon, Nikon, or Sony. And if you own a Canon, a Nikon, or a Sony, or are planning on purchasing one, I wouldn't worry about either of those companies going anywhere anytime soon. You're going to get new gear, new lenses. You're going to get support from third-party makers of accessories, lenses, and other items like backpacks and camera bags. However, if you're looking at purchasing from Pentax, Panasonic, OM Systems, all these companies are lumped into that bottom end 5%, which is usually classified as other. You really want to pay attention to how well these companies are doing, what their bottom line is. And while it doesn't mean that any of these companies are going to get bought out or divested or even go out of business, what it does mean is you're likely going to see fewer releases of camera bodies, lenses, and accessories, especially in the third-party markets when it comes to lenses and accessories and things such as camera bags. But now what I want to do is turn our attention to deals of the week, and we're just going to focus on Sony this time. We're not going to talk about Canon or Panasonic, and the reason being is we don't get many sales for Sony gear. And this time around, we're seeing a lot of sales on camera bodies and a lot of sales on lenses. Now, some of the sales are as high as $400 off, and others, well, a lot of things you're seeing $100 off. So let's go ahead and start off with a Sony a7R5. It's currently $400 off, and that matches previous sales that we saw since its introduction. But one thing is very important to make note of here. A lot of these previous sales that we had, and I think this might be the third or fourth one, Sony's only put these sales out there for about a week, maybe a week and a half, never more than 2 weeks. So if you're really interested in these sales, you might want to go ahead and take advantage of them. I do have the links in the description down below. And if you do use these links, a big thank you, because the reason why this channel is on the air is not from the ad revenue. That might be somewhere less than 10%. This channel really makes its money off the affiliate links and the pre-order links. And that's why I want to just say again, a big thanks to all of you that have used my pre-order links and the affiliate links in the past. But let's get back to the sales. We have the Sony a7R4 on sale for $200 off, and the a7 IV also $200 off. And if you're waiting for me to announce a sale on the FX3 or the Sony a7S III, no, there's no sale there. Now, normally when Sony puts the a7R5 on sale and the a7 IV, they also take a $200 or $300 off the Sony a7S III, but not this time. That's very interesting. I wonder if it's in response to Canon's R5 Mark II for a $42.99. Interesting, very interesting. All right, now let's turn our attention to a bunch of lenses that are on sale, and two of them are my favorites. First up is the 24-105 f4. It's $200 off at $1098, and the 50mm f1.4 is $100 off at $1898. As you can see, there are many more deals, many more sales on lenses, with most of them being $100 off, some of them being $200 off. And while Sony does have, I would say, the largest inventory of lenses on the planet with their E-mount that they came out, when it was the E-mount? It was, what, back around 2007, 2008, 2009? It probably came out with the Alpha line when they bought Minolta. But one thing we don't see a lot from Sony is we don't see a lot of sales on their lenses, and that's what you're seeing right now. An awful lot of sales on lenses. Might only be $100 or even $200, but you know, for a camera company that doesn't put things on sale very much, it's kind of a big deal. I personally love the 50mm f1.4. It's a terrific lens. I shot with that when I had the Sony a7S III for several weeks, and I loved it. And of course, you got the 24-105 f4, some really good lenses, some really good camera bodies. And I almost want to go and talk about the Nikon and the Sony stuff's on sale, because those guys have sales on all the time. And I'll save it for the next video, because if you take a look at my links down below, you'll see a bunch of Sony and Canon stuff that's on sale and pre-orders. But again, a big thanks to all of you for supporting this channel, for commenting, for liking. And whenever you look at purchasing anything on this channel, you know, you're funding this channel. It's kind of like those PBSs when they do those fundraising drives. This is one way to help support the channel without actually paying anything to me. You're getting a camera or a lens at a really great deal, or you're getting a pre-order. You don't pay anything extra than anybody else, but by using these links, I get a small commission back, and I think that's the best of the both worlds. You don't hear me talking about, I even forget, some other channels they use, well, PayPal as donations, or they use, I forgot what they even call it. They have these special things, and you know what, I just want to present you with the news. I don't yet have to pay for anything, but if you ever want to buy something, well, then you can use my links, and it's one way to support the channel. But thank you so much for tuning in. This is the last week of my vacation. I expect it to be rather slow, and I know I've released a video almost every day for the past week, but that's because stuff has come up, something worth commenting about. And the nice thing about this is it's given me more time to edit because I don't have a day job, I'm off, and if I want to put 4 or 5 hours into shooting and editing a video, I can. And that's one of the things I've really enjoyed about having this month off, is it was kind of a trial run for being retired. And I like it. I like doing this job in retirement. So don't expect this channel to go anywhere anytime soon. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. Have yourself a great day, a great week, and we'll see you again soon.